If you have a child with a 504 or an IEP in an inner city school, you probably go to a meeting every year to have changes made to the document as your child grows in their education. There is so much that schools don't have time to teach and guide you about this very important meeting or the document itself. But from money that can be owed to you at the end of the year to custom accommodations that your child can receive, there is a lot to know about the power of an IEP. Also, the amount of alphabet soup and confusing language that shows up in those meetings can have you like a deer in headlights. In today's episode, I walk you through 3 tools I've created to effectively navigate these meetings by clearly laying out what everyone's action steps should be before, during, and after. Welcome to Managing with G. Marie, where we keep it real about parenting, breaking cycles, and building a legacy. I'm your host, GeLisa Marie, a millennial mom from the south side of Chicago who's still growing up while raising the next generation. This isn't your average parenting podcast. Here, we challenge the norms, talk money, legacy, and what it takes to raise kids in today's world. So the first thing I like to lead with is that parents should absolutely be reviewing the current IEP that's in place from the previous school year. So right now we're at the end of the 24-25 school year. We're going into 25-26. So anyone that's had an IEP meeting this year, their current IEP year was from last year to this year. If you're reviewing the IEP that's in place, then you're understanding where your child was, and it gives you kind of a soft starting point. Of course, their start is way beyond that, right? But understanding what accommodations and modifications they've been following in the last, year, that's what the current IEP is going to tell you. Everything that's been happening is going to give you the IEP report card. All of that should be in one place. If you don't have it, ask for it. It's your right to do so. And it's also your right to have enough time to get it. So let's say this is 10 days before the meeting. When we're reviewing the current IEP that's in place, then what we want to do is we want to make sure that if 3 days pass when we've requested this document and it's not happening, well, now we need to be like every day because you need enough time. If your IEP meeting is on the 24th, you need to be able to at least have by the 15th, 16th to start reading through this document. This is a lengthy document. You got other things to do. You probably have more than just the one child. You probably have another child. That child may or may not also have an IEP or IEP meeting pending. So you want to give yourself an ample amount of time to get things done. The next thing you want to do is you want to create yourself a list of questions for the meeting. Now, when I think about a list of questions, I think about you having the current IEP in front of you. And when you have that IEP in front of you, your questions are more along the line of maybe, what does this mean? Or what does that mean? Or how well does my child do in response to this intervention or this accommodation or this modification? The biggest question I ask parents to ask, I want parents to ask is this working? Is separating a child into a small group during testing working, or do we now need to just pull them completely by themselves? Things like that. Are they sitting near the window getting distracted during testing, or do they need to be closer to the door? Does the preferential seating need to be closer to a teacher? What's working? What's not working? Those are like the questions I want you to start thinking about. And anything that you need to define or anything that you need to understand better along the lines of that process, well, that's what you got me for. So you can schedule an advocate call, a one-on-one meeting, and we can have a conversation about different language and different jargon. But this is what I love about this Parent Power Pack, because there is so much inside of it. And a part of that is helping you understand the jargon and the different language that's being used amongst educators and about your child in situations where there's an IEP or there's a 504 in place, even a safety plan in place. There's some jargon that I have in there for you as well. So let's go. We're reaching out to the diverse learner teacher or the case manager via email to address whatever that question is. You want to find out what's working or what's not working before you get in front of these people. You want to have like yourself a nice understanding of, okay, this is going good, this is going bad. When you get to 3 days before that meeting, because I'm giving you 7 days here between this 10 and this 3, because I want you to bug them if you don't get the copy. I want you to take time to create your questions, and I want you to have time for those diverse learner teachers, case managers, whomever you're reaching out to, social worker, clinicians, to be able to get back to you. At 3 days before the meeting, you should be receiving a copy of the newly written IEP. A really, really great special education team is going to make sure that this IEP is done 14 days before the meeting. It's done. It's in draft. There's nothing left to be done but revisions and going through, whoever the case manager is or whoever the lead team is. That's the only thing that should be left to cover at all. After that, when you're receiving a copy of that newly written IEP, you're going to go and you're going to review that new IEP, and then you're going to create a new list of questions. So if you find yourself with the same questions when you were looking at the old IEP that you do when you have the new, that's a red flag. You want to be able to have a clear understanding of everything that happened in that previous IEP. You don't want to be getting to the new IEP like, well, what's going on here? Your questions should be new. They should be new questions because there should be changes in advancement. Now, if your child is not making progress from the old IEP to the new, now that's a question in and of itself. Then we're going to be reaching out to the diverse learner teacher, the case manager via email to address those questions. You see the pattern? You see the document? You question the document? You ask your questions about the document. This is where you start. This is your beginning. Then, okay, another 3 days, the day before the meeting, right? 1 day before the meeting, you're going to confirm and like who will be meeting and who will be present. So if your child receives OT, but OT wants to maybe go from, we don't need a direct service. Maybe we just need a consult. Maybe we just need to check in with the child every month or every week. So we want to find out, well, if this is changing, because now we know what's in the new IEP, if this is changing, is that person going to be there? If they're not going to be there, is there another time that I can schedule to meet with them to speak to this change? Because that meeting, teachers, case managers, school workers, they are looking to have that meeting be as short as possible. The school is under a lot of restraint and stress when it comes to the time that they need to get things done. So it's very important that you understand that sometimes you have to create those other spaces of time to speak. And it might make the IEP it might make IEP season a little busy, but you will have so much clarity this time that it won't be that busy next time. You would have already gotten into the rhythm of speaking to the clinician almost every time they speak to your child. Hey, listen, after you get done consult, can you touch base with me and, quickly let me know? Because I'm telling you, there are clinicians that meet with students all year long and then won't communicate what they discussed with the student, with the parent. So you want to make clear that that's something that you're asking and requiring of your services. Now, you want to review your questions, answers, and decide if you will have clarity before that meeting. I say this the day before the meeting, but I say at all points when you're getting your answers, you want to decide if you have clarity. At any point in this, that's a decision that you can make. If it's appropriate, I want you to ask your child. And this is what I mean by if it's appropriate. So usually they don't start bringing children into the meetings until they're in high school, 14 and a half, but if your child's 8 or 9, they can say like, oh yeah, my other teacher didn't pull me today. Or Yeah, I've been in class all day. If they have these pull-out minutes or these self-contained minutes where they're supposed to be taken out of the classroom and given that special one-on-one or that special small group, your child's going to be able to tell you if there's been a shift in their day. So also there should be progress monitoring that's in place and in black and white to show, hey, we gave this test on this day and this was this result. So if it's appropriate, ask your child if you have concerns about the progress in clinical or education settings. A child is going to know if they do not like going with the social worker. If they don't like going with the social worker because there's a child in that group that's doing something a certain way or whatever, and there's a change that needs to be made, that child is going to be able to know. So you want to build and develop relationships. I talk about this in my podcast. You really want to build and develop a relationship with your child where they feel comfortable being able to disclose to you what's happening in their school setting. Everything should not be, we're attacking our children for this type of, for like a behavior or something like that. You want to kind of nurture the things that you hear. So on the day of the IEP meeting, we want to arrive on time. If it's a Zoom, if it's a Google Meet, whatever it is, we want to get there on time and early. If you're the first one in the Google Meet, great. Because that's what we want to have going on. And then you want to ask for clarity on any unclear answers or unanswered questions, because it does happen where you've reached out and you've reached out and you've reached out and you've gotten nothing back. Well, after introductions, when your case manager introduces the meeting, they should be telling you what they're going to talk about when. Let's say if they say, today we'll talk about your child's strengths, weaknesses, goals, accommodations, modifications, and then ask you if you have any questions at the end. There may be a section in the IEP where you're like, I know you all don't plan on talking about this, but I have a question about this. This is your meeting to do that. So then you want to be sure to voice any parent concerns. However, this is not the same as a parent-teacher conference. This is not a teacher's opportunity to snitch on your kids. This is not an opportunity for you to complain about something that is not educationally related. Those times should be compartmentalized. The IEP meeting is simply about educational and behavioral progress. And if we keep it within the context of what the meeting is for, we won't have people rushing us out of the meeting because now we're talking about something that's, off topic. So during the IEP meeting, you want to pay attention to the opening introduction. Even during a Google Meet, you want to use that meeting planner note catcher that I have on this next page, because you want to be listening for what's going on. You want to listen for positivity in your child's strengths. They should be highlighted. They should be highlighted at some point. And I really think at the beginning, no IEP meeting, no meeting at all. Let me go so far as to say, if you're receiving a email or notice or note home or behavior charts, or there should always be some positivity about your child. I mean, listen, as a parent, if all I could say is they at school every day, because most times their kids that give you the most trouble are at school every day, they have to be able to say something that is positive about your child. Nobody should be jumping into negatives about your child ever. That's like bad bedside manner in the hospital with the doctor, and the doctor just talking crazy and you got a diagnosis, And then you want to advocate for your child, especially if your answers or concerns are contradicted through the meeting. So if somebody says to you that they're going to increase your child's minutes, they should never promise you that outside of a meeting without all of the data being looked at together. But if they promise you that, and then you get into the meeting and we're talking about a decrease in minutes, if the span of the meeting does not make sense, if the boy or the girl can't get past a C or a D, why are we now decreasing the number, the level of support? be careful for things like, oh, we're going to, increase the accommodations and modifications and decrease something else if that's not going to work for your child. And most of the time the professionals have gotten a chance to observe if they've been on their job and they know what's working and what's not. So they should be able to tell you, hey, when I tried this, it really worked. And when I tried this, it really didn't. And if something didn't work, then they shouldn't be talking to you about using that method, continuing to use that method. So after the meeting, and this is what I love about this particular product, is because I want to talk a little bit about after the meeting happens. You want to be sure that you receive a finalized copy of the IEP. They should have you sign it. So there should be no reason why you don't get it. Then you want to bring any questions about inconsistencies with your meeting notes to the case manager or the special education teacher. Now, I mentioned this a few times in this document because you don't want things to be, etched in stone, rather. But you don't want things to be etched in stone, and that's when you're bringing up your inconsistencies. However, if the copy's been finalized, it can also be reopened. Don't let anybody tell you, oh, this is done. Like, no, nothing's ever done. Keep a paper or a digital copy in your email's drive. Highlight areas such as goals and accommodations and modifications for classroom and testing reference. A really good special education teacher is going to make sure that she gives a snapshot, an IEP snapshot of each of her children, her students, and she's going to send them to those gen ed teachers, gym teachers, clinicians, and they're going to be able to see this is what works, this is the disability, and everybody around should have that. They should also have a copy of the full IEP. But for all of us super busy educators, a snapshot is great. Gen ed teachers really, really appreciate it. And it offers an opportunity for them to be able to see all that is needed and all that is required out of that student in that maybe short time of specials or something like that. Or if they're teaching them ELA or they're teaching them math, it'll show them, okay, so this student needs to maybe sit closer to the teacher. This student maybe needs to use a special kind of pencil. This student needs headphones, things like that. For you just want to highlight it for yourself so that when your child comes home, you can check in on those accommodations and modifications without really calling them that. You can ask, where'd you sit today? Simple questions, because kids, when you start asking kids, how was your day and what did you learn? But you can ask your child, like, where'd you sit today? When you raise your hand, did you get an answer? How many times did you raise your hand today? Things like that. Communication with the school is a super important part of what we have to focus on when it comes to the meeting being over. You want brief and direct emails to the case manager. I have email templates in this parent power pack as well. You want to always leave your most accessible email and phone number. Listen, I tell parents, if the email is on the phone, whatever email comes to your device that you carry around on you every day, that's the email that you want to give to the school. And you want your email to try to be professional. Let's keep it first name, first initial, last name, first initial. Create a whole new email just for your kid's school. When you log into their platform to see their grades, that email should be the same as when you're communicating with Parent Square or Class Dojo or Remind or any of those different platforms, communication platforms that parents use. You want to make sure that it's happening with your most accessible information. And then you're going to utilize platforms like Zoom and Google Meets for meetings by familiarizing yourself with how to use them. How am I using Google Meets? How do I use my email? It may seem like we're in such a tech savvy world, but when that's not a part of your world, when you don't have to be tech savvy, you're just not. And so now you got this new diagnosis and your child has this IEP and you're going to have to do virtual meetings. So now is the time to learn how to do those virtual meetings. And I have a guide video that's also linked in this product. So, I'm super excited about that. Communication with your child. You want to explain to your child their goals. You want to write those goals down and have them places in the house. A good general education teacher will have those goals on their person, and a good special education teacher will make sure a student has their goals on them so that they are always understanding what the goal is and the steps of the goal. Because there's a big goal, and then there's something we want to resolve quarter by quarter to get to that bigger goal. There's something we want to work on quarter by quarter. So if a student's goal is to do fluent long division, we might want to start with using subtraction, the concepts of splitting items, and different number sense tools that's going to build them up quarter after quarter to get to that space. We might want to strengthen multiplication. We might want to start off with just having a division fact sheet and then moving our way up to the different strategies of how to utilize the algorithm for division. You want to speak to your child about their feelings, about any grade changes or progress in test scores. It's so important because if something in the education plan is making your child feel less than, if there's praise not being given or motivation or encouragement not being had, you add that into the IEP. Absolutely, you will. Absolutely. There's no reason why high praise shouldn't be a part of the accommodation. It should be the standard. I mean, why are we not praising kids in the classroom? But on the off chance that your child is saying, no one ever tells me I'm doing great, or no one ever, gives me a thumb up or whatever it is, then we add that to the plan. And so if it's added to the plan, communicating with your child will let you know if it's being followed. If behavioral changes are relevant, speak to your child about setting their own personal goals for behavior. Now, I know that sometimes behavioral challenges are not something that we can help. They are things that we can find the baby steps to strengthen along the way. So a child may not be able to sit still, but we can practice sitting still at home for a duration of time. That's possible. So ultimately, you really just want to make the decision to decide, okay, how can I best give the practice at home for it to manifest itself as being positive and fluid at school? And then how do I share what I'm doing at home with teachers, right? We want to collaborate. We want to connect with clinicians monthly, quarterly to check in on our child's progress in social work, in nursing, in speech, and OT. We want to connect with special education teachers and case managers. This is where you start sharing what you're doing. If you're in an advocate one-on-one session with me and we're talking about different strategies and I send you over your strategy workbook, it's going to be in a structure where you can send it right on over to that teacher and say, hey, this is what we're using. And I find that if you have a really good strategy, most teachers, they're not going to just use it with your kid. They're going to use it with every kid that is relevant too, because it's going to make it easier for them in the classroom. So this isn't about fighting the school or combating with the school. This is about finding strategies that work to make everything easier on your child to make progress real and happening, and to work with the teachers and with the school to help them to provide a better way, while also opening up communication that makes it easier for everyone to speak to what the child is learning or what they're growing, what helps them grow. Then you want to connect with your child's school admin annually or as needed. So beginning of the school year, I don't care if it's beginning of the school year, we just get the principal, a little gift, a principal appreciation gift. or we set up a meeting to sit down and have a sit down about different goals or concerns or things like that. We don't want to buck admin. They don't have a lot of time. If we need them to step in, then yes, I pray that none of you all need admin to step in. And some schools may even call case managers admin or counselors admin, but hopefully you're touching bases with them just enough to be, recognized or seen. I have so many parents of special education students who are on the PTA, who are actively in the LSC, actively in the local school council, actively in the parent teacher organization groups. And this allows them to connect with admin more than just annually. So I'm not saying to limit yourself, but I'm saying when it comes to speaking to your child's specific situations or needs, I think that in a great situation, you only need to connect maybe once or twice a year. So now I want to get into this note catcher part of the meeting where it's like what they said versus what I heard. So this is a space for your child and the date that the meeting is happening. This is a really good reference because whatever this date is that this meeting is happening, that's the date of the expiration of the IEP for the next year. So you want to keep up with dates in that way. So throughout the product, I'm constantly, noting dates. This is a fillable PDF that comes and says what the school said. So they might talk about this going to happen, that going to happen, or a date for something or a time for something. This is a really good space for that. And then you want to right across from here, just highlight what you need from that situation. Then, do I need to follow up? Do I need to send an email? What's working? What's not working? These are all the things that I talk about in the previous document. Now, if you're a person that just has a really hard time voicing what it is you need to voice when it comes to the meeting and speaking to what may be indicated as authority, at least authority over your child, I've created these very unique sentence stems, and they're categorized by where you might want the conversation to go. So if we're talking about our child's strengths and identities, you want to use these to highlight who your child really is beyond a diagnosis or a behavior chart. Then you have this category of meeting expectations and advocacy tone. You want to use these to express the kind of meeting you expect and how you want to be treated as a parent and a partner. This might be in the meeting. This might be long before the meeting. Then in accommodations, modifications, and support, you want to use these sentence stems to reflect on services, supports, or systems that need to be addressed, strengthened, or clarified. And for category 4, you're debunking misconceptions. You use these when you need to correct narratives, challenge biases, or set boundaries around vague promises. And this is where the advocacy really climaxes, because when you start saying, this is what I don't want to happen again in this year, we've been patient, but we're ready to see some consistent follow through on, let's talk about what is really working and what's just a checkbox, right? That's when you start getting into some language. That's when you start to, really spark some conversation, but you're being very serious and very direct, but you're being very clear. It's very clear in these sentence stems what you want to come out of it. So this is just the first few parts of this product. I do hope that you absolutely enjoy it. There's a second video that just highlights the remainder of the product, which is our jargon bar and our email templates. I do want us to go into this welcome letter very briefly so that you can see everything that's included. I have a checklist organizer, statement builders. That's the 3 parts of the product that I just went through with you. But then later on, we have email templates, goal trackers, jargon decoders, and label guides. And I truly am honored to help parents who have devoted their time to learning for the defense of their children's rights, because you're taking the time out to listen to me, and you're taking the time out to put yet another piece of paperwork in front of you, just for that ease of you being able to advocate for your child properly and having a better understanding. And so if you're here, then you've already gone through the digital product, that just kind of describes and helps you understand what an IEP is, the different sections of the IEP and why it's here. And I'm honored that you've, graduated yourself to the Parent Power Pack, because now that you understand what the IEP is for and its importance and the laws that protect you around it, you can now utilize these meetings and your interactions with the schools to really make true change and to see the changes that you're trying to pivot towards. Thank you so much. I am incredibly honored that you have decided to purchase this product from me. When I'm speaking to people on a regular basis, I'm always thinking, they're always telling me that there's no one else doing this. And I do see influencers in the neuro-diverse space that are making sure to educate parents. My way of doing things is a little different, just because I am you. I was you, a parent that really just didn't understand, and it shied me away from getting my child an IEP when getting them one could have been very, very helpful. And then as I became a special education teacher, I really started to see that it's not a cookie cutter situation, and not every child diagnosed with everything needs an IEP. It gave me a reconfirmation of me doing something really great, but it also made me realize that there are plenty of parents that have made the decision to not have an IEP for their child. And in making that decision, it was not the best one for their child, because they took away from themselves an opportunity to have true guidance and build true support for their child's disability. And those that have chosen to have an IEP and then have had this overwhelming experience of not being supported and not having that, how do you look them in the face and say the IEP is the right thing? So I wanted to create digital products that would make those whose children have an IEP, make them more comfortable in going at this thing and not just kind of feeling like they're going along with a team of people that know more than them, because no one knows more than you about your kid. Even if your kid completely comes alive at home and they're a whole different person at school, you still know what makes them tick, what they're interested in, what they like. And you're the best person to say, this is right and this is wrong and this works and this doesn't. And if there's another person in that school building that your child confides in and that they know and feel comfort with, then you and that person should be a collaborator in making sure to get your child to a space where they can reach their goals. And that's all I want for everyone. So thank you so much. Thank you for your time. And I hope that this product helps, and I hope that you gain so much from it. And I hope that it is such a blessing to you and your family.